Today we've got a little bit something different on the channel. I have the pleasure of interviewing Caan Berry on all things sports trading. We're going to talk about building a business online and also running a successful YouTube channel. So first off, Caan, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's probably not been a little while since a few people have seen me online with a few health problems, but everything seems to have gone past its worst point now, so I'm all good, yeah. And obviously it's in your last video, so happy to come on and do this.
Yeah, thank you for that, mate, yeah. So for those that don't really know, could you just go into how you got started with Betfair?
Sure. I'll keep it brief because I think a lot of people do know. So I was at the time I was in the military. I was basically looking for ways to make extra money, side hustles, stuff like that. Had a young family, wanted better for what was my latest son at that point in time. I've got two now. And I think it's hard to remember going back, but I think one of two things came first. I know they're around the same time. First of all, it was like a short segment on Channel 4, which I think that they put aside for uni students. So it was like a couple of minutes, and they went and seen this guy who was trading Betfair, who was Adam Heathcote. You know, people that have been around a long time will probably know who he is. You will.
Yeah, I remember his old blog.
Yeah. So that was obviously appealing because he was making a lot of money quite quickly. I'm not sure if that came first. I think it might have come first, and then around about the same time, I was already looking at horse racing gambling online. And in one of the forums, someone mentioned, "Oh, you can use this software and you can bet faster straight into the Betfair exchange." And I already had an account, so I'll give that a whirl. That was Geek Story, the software, and it just went from there. Really, it just snowballed. There's obviously a small community. Then things have changed a lot since then, but that's what sort of brought me in the first place.
Yeah. So were you doing any like advantage gambling or match betting? Were you aware of like any other ways to make money, or was that kind of your first introduction to like actually, that you can actually make a living, you can actually make long-term profits?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, back then there was literally nothing. So no, there was none of that. I don't think match betting had even been really coined and pushed at that point in time. I think I first registered my account with Betfair in 2007. Didn't really use it a lot for the first year. Obviously, it was just the exchange then. This is pre-sportsbook and all the casino guff and stuff they do now. But yeah, that was my first real exposure. I was kind of playing with the concept of sort of like betting on more than one runner in a race and trying to sort of hedge a little bit of value like that. But it was very limited. So trading wasn't even really a thing, let alone match betting. And I sort of didn't come across match betting until I'd already been trading for like 4 years. So
right, okay. So fast forward to 2024, do you have like any advice for anyone that's kind of starting to get into Betfair trading, or they want to take it more seriously as a side income or full time? Like, what would you say? Is it still worthwhile in your opinion?
Yeah. The first thing is plan ahead, think about premium charge and the nasty stuff like that. It's obviously a bit sad how Betfair have gone. A little bit of bad blood there maybe, but look, it's certainly worthwhile. It's just depending on where you're at and what you're after, really. I mean, like to trade now, people can still definitely do like 100K a year trading exchanges, horse racing, and stuff like that. So that's obviously massively appealing to a lot of people. When you factor in sort of premium charge, the advanced premium charge stuff further down the line, some of the problems, maybe how Betfair are sort of looking at their own business with the exchange, you just want to make sure you think ahead and sort of and hedge or manage that potential risk, shall I say, rather than having all eggs in one basket sort of thing. But it's certainly worth doing, of course. And there's loads of other upsides, such as sort of working from home and stuff like that. In terms of sort of like value, if they're starting now, then I would say strip it back and think like about the whole picture of what you're actually doing. That's the thing that's probably served me best over time. So I'm talking about specific things like, like the first principles that are involved with actual trading. So, like what are the market feeds? Are there time delays? What are the differences between different venues, different liquidity in different situations, whether it's all weather, whether it's daytime racing, if it's a Saturday afternoon, because they all vary. And then also beyond that, think about the people using the exchange, because trading effectively is playing market psychology. It's like how other people are behaving. So think deeper into how the crowd are thinking and stuff like that. That's probably the broadest, best things I can say without sort of saying the usual guff, and be open to change, because as soon as you think something, quote unquote, you're setting yourself up for a fall. It's a bit paradoxical in that sense, and it becomes a journey of learning about yourself, And obviously there's a lot of advice out there, and I think that people should be a little bit wary of that, because there's a lot of duds and fakes, and generally if they're not showing their face, then why are they not doing that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a lot of stuff like that, and I mean, I don't want to be too negative, but I think maybe some of the crossover with the match betting communities is to blame with that, because you get people coming in from match betting. It's a bit different. Obviously, it's a great place to start and transition, but then they kind of quickly go to, this isn't guaranteed instant free profit of a 1, 2, 3 monkey follow monkey do.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
Yeah, well, it's just not the same. It's just different, and you need to go deeper on those important things that I mentioned. Because there's so many different variables involved, and then sort of it can turn sour quite quickly, and then they're usually the ones that start providing advice.
Yeah,
because they couldn't do it themselves. So yeah.
And it is very easy to fake things as well. Like, you just have to like right click and inspect, and you can change the stake levels and make yourself look like you're making thousands. So it is more about listening to, well, in my opinion, listening to kind of the content that people put out and the strategy and the thought behind their own trades, rather than just looking at, oh, this guy made £1,000 or whatever last week, he must be great. Like, you want to know more, you want to really know how they're making that £1,000, if they are really making that £1,000. And
yeah. I mean that's the thing, and it's not to say that those people can't add value, because they certainly can, and there's interesting insights that come from absolutely everybody, even the people that I might not like, but it's basically just finding those underpinning things that are useful, that are logical, and understanding why, and then working from there, rather than just taking it as gospel. Because you see things like people saying, "Oh, so you should be scalping 20 minutes out," and it's just pure insanity, because there's no liquidity in the market, there's no money turning over, it's not logical, it makes no sense. Yeah, right, you might get away with it a couple of times, make £2, £5. They've got their fabricated whatever, like you say, but it's just totally unrealistic. But there's still something you can learn from that, even, because you can say, well, if there's no liquidity further out, then I should maybe make that a rule that I don't do that, or I trade in a different way.
I was going to ask you, do you still record your own trading? Because I know previously you've talked quite a bit about video recording, so that you can look back kind of out of the, because obviously when you're trading and there's 5 minutes left before the race starts, it can be quite high intensity. There's a lot going on, and being able to kind of pull yourself back from that and then analyze your own trades. Is that something you still do, or are you at a point now where you don't really need to do it?
Very rarely would I record anything now, really. I used to do way back when. But it's mainly because I've kind of burnt that out, if you like.
Yeah. But would you still suggest that for newer traders then to
record
what they're doing?
I certainly would say do that. It's a useful thing for sure, especially when you can play it back and play it back at like 2 or 3 times speed. Sometimes things become a little bit clearer. You're certainly starting to notice patterns, and the pattern recognition between different markets becomes a bit clearer. So definitely, for sure. I mean, that's the type of thing I used to do a lot late into the evening once Mrs. was asleep.
Yeah. So I was also going to ask you, you put out a lot of good content on YouTube and on your website about general sports betting strategies, like, value betting, match betting, kind of advantage betting style stuff. Is that something that you're actively doing anymore, or have you moved on from that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I have reduced some of the things that I do and the time that I allocate to it. For sure. I just take like the more low hanging fruit now. And largely that's because of how the regulation type stuff and the way I see it going forward.
Yeah, and
obviously the position that I'm in further down the line, and premium charges and other stuff going on. But yeah, it'd be foolish not to, right?
Yeah. Like I said, there's still easy money. It's not as easy as it was like 10 years ago, but there is still, there's still easy money out there, and it's tax free at the end of the day. That's, when I talk to my friends about side hustles and that, like recently I filled in my self-assessment and I had to pay back like 40% of what I made last year. As a side income, but everything I make from sports betting, I get to keep it. So that's quite a big incentive, really, for people to want to try to get into sports betting and trading and want to make money. Because as a side hustle, it is excellent. Like it's, even in 2024, it's still a really good opportunity.
Yeah, well, like I say, like it's a lot. It's still a lot of money for a lot of people when you look at like kind of the average wage, or if I look at my former self when I was back in the military, it's like it's still way better. But yeah, like, those kind of criticisms of people saying, oh, are you actively betting and stuff like that, it usually comes from 2 camps anyway. And it's like, it's either someone who's trying to sort of pull, in particular regards to myself and that, because I've seen it online, it happens. there's someone trying to pull me down and use my name or whatever, so they can pull themselves up.
Yeah,
and then ironically, they're usually people that copy what I've done, may it be YouTube, whatever, as well. Somebody who's maybe a little bit more disgruntled and made it, like I formerly said about match betting stuff, found it hard to make it pay, and they sort of want to blame someone else, and again maybe make some money on the side, or just a competitor that wants to plant the seeds of doubt, because it's in that a lot, and there's a lot of sort of snide background stuff that has gone on. I'm sure you'll be aware of various different things, but it's like, and it's sad to see that, really, because it effectively it's just sort of bitterness. And usually when you wind it back, it's like some 50-year-old living in the spare bedroom at their mum's house or something that's been trying to do it. It's just,
like you say, it's a lot of the time it's the faceless accounts, isn't it? That's what you've got to be wary of. Like even on Twitter and on websites as well, there's a lot of faceless people, accounts and websites, and they never put themselves out there. And there's a reason for that. Is normally, they don't, they don't want to put themselves out there. And usually,
it's always the way.
Two together,
no trading address,
no
real tangible anything. Why?
Yeah, exactly. That's a question.
And then they're putting themselves out there as the voice of truth. What a laugh! But anyway,
yeah. I think I specifically know a group of guys, or they might not even exist. They might be fake. Who went around basically slagging off all different types of traders, everyone, making videos, just trying to get attention. And then I looked on their website, and they had this like £1 to £1,000 challenge or something ridiculous. And they accomplished it within a week, apparently.
Well, I think
and they showed no proof at all. They just talked about what they did. So I made £100 on tennis one day. Then I put that onto greyhounds, and I was up £200. And I was like,
it's the internet, and people are going to do what they do, But it's like a lot of the time, I think there's I said, there's a crossover from other stuff. So like you get tipsters and stuff as well, and they go, "Oh, that's something that we can do too." And that's where like the £1 to 1,000 comes from sometimes. Stuff like that. But I mean, I think, to be honest, I think the majority of people just see through it quite quickly.
I think so, and by now, I think the internet's been around long enough that people are kind of wise to it. But we'll move on. And so, what are your thoughts on the future of sports trading? Obviously, we've got kind of over-regulation, we've got AI, but we've also got crypto, sports books, and exchanges popping up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive unknown. And if you'd asked me that question 6 months, 12 months ago, I'd be like, oh God, it's not good, is it? But I think really, in terms of regulation stuff, at least, we've reached the bottom now. I don't think it can go worse, so it can only get better, to put positive spin on it. It's not great. The thing that has frustrated me over time, and you probably you may have seen, I wrote that blog obviously after the heart problem and stuff. It's on the site now. The thing that frustrates me the most is just the general perception of it. Obviously, gambling is never going to get a good rap from the public. It'd be mad to think that it is. But the lies and the mistruths, shall I say, sorry, I'm be careful, don't end up getting legal letters. Let's not mention anyone either. That are just constantly published in pretty much all of the newspapers. You may go and find some little corrections page on the Gambling Commission's website that absolutely nobody sees. And then it's just repeated as gospel. Stories are released, or sections of stories are released. It's always death and suicide. And I know firsthand myself with the Football Index stuff, I know it upset a lot of people at the time, but I tried to do a bit of good with that. I looked at that and I was like, this is bad.
I
contacted the Gambling Commission. I contacted I literally contacted all of the newspapers, pretty much, everything. And although maybe 6 or 7 of them replied, none of them were interested. There was, in fact, there was one person that wrote an article. It was Greg Wood in the Guardian, who would sort of, and I think it's because he'd formerly looked at it previously, but no one else wanted to know a sausage. And then when it went bang and everyone's money disappeared, right, there they were, quoting all the same people as usual. There's going to be deaths because of this, suicide headline, potential suicides, all that kind of stuff. That's the most frustrating thing for me, because these decisions, as we've seen with regulation, these decisions then made on top of that, and even now it's been debunked. All of these statistics and stuff is just simply not true. So I mean that is the biggest downside, I think, in general. And then maybe regards the betting companies, they only really want slots and casinos, don't they? Because it's just the easiest, fastest, biggest money for them. So. It's a shame, really, how Betfair's gone over the years. Although I suppose it's predictable, the private company.
Yeah. What do you think? What are your thoughts about crypto books? Have you looked into using any of them?
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's some stuff there that's interesting. I don't really want to say too much, just because of the nature of it all and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the problem also, because people ask me sometimes, and there are useful things to say, but you can't just go around saying some things in public on internet when you've got a profile.
Yeah.
Because they are sometimes a little bit grey, the areas and stuff.
Yeah. It's like using brokers. Like I've used brokers before, like Bet in Asia and stuff like that, because I wanted to bet with Pinnacle. Simply, I was just like, I want to see what's on offer. Yeah, and I found them fine. The only reason I stopped using them is because they changed to become crypto only, so I couldn't fund them with NetTeller. I think I was using, and I couldn't use them. But like withdrawals and stuff, fine. Like easier than William Hill or someone like that who would can be quite strict with the KYC and all that type of stuff. So
honestly, I could just
it's like like there are options out there, but you've almost got to put yourself at a bit more risk, and that's at the fault of over regulation and.
It leads itself wide open to somebody coming in that maybe does crypto, whatever, because there's some good exchange stuff coming up out there as well. But like, the person that does it legitimately and doesn't screw people over with stuff like withdrawals and all of that sort of stuff, everybody's going to go there. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Because as you say, the regulated stuff, it's just horrific. It's truly horrific. My inbox, I don't reply to them anymore, or the odd one maybe, but there's just too many. And I know I've set myself up for that with a few videos and stuff that I've said and done online in the past, but like my inboxes are light with people. Like I can think there's one guy earlier this week, he's won 40k with well, let's not say the name just because, but like one of the biggest brands that absolutely everybody will know that maybe has like football channels and stuff too. And he's won 40 grand with them. And then they're pulling all this crap on him now. But previously he's lost a few thousand and they didn't care. They didn't want to check nothing.
Yeah. No,
but the gambling commission's
the power they have,
It's the gambling commission's fault with that. But they're the biggest things. I know it's quite negative and you can get sucked into it. But, on the flip side, it's like there's plenty that's still possible too.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. So if we move on a little bit and start talking about your website and YouTube. So what made you first start your website, caanberry.com?
Sure. So the website initially was, I don't want to say boredom, but like obviously like focusing on horses only predominantly at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot else to do in the morning. So it was like, there was a lot of sitting around in the early days. So that's where it kind of started. And I had a blog where I just vented on how I was feeling at the time. And it just grew from that. But after a little while, it's sort of like the penny dropped. The diversification made sense. There was, and do you know what? It's funny because it goes back to like that question of, are you still sports betting? Why would you do anything else if you're sports betting? And it's like, why does anyone do other stuff? Why does Richard Branson do more than one company?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like why is Warren Buffett still buying stocks? And
it's like
he doesn't need to, does he?
No, of course not. But it's like. Yeah, I mean, there's all manner of reasons, but like one thing that sort of smacked me in the face was at one point, and I can't remember exactly, it's on the blog somewhere, but it's like 2014 or something maybe. I was bringing in quite a bit of money. I'd only been trading full time for a few years, and I wanted to get property, and I had a good amount of money stashed, and I had what I would class as my reserves in case I had a few wonky situations.
Yeah,
but I didn't have enough to buy a house outright at the time. So it was like I went up the bank. They were like, "What the hell do we do with this guy? Like, we've had a bank account of us for years. We can see the stuff. I don't know." So they were like, "Do you know what? We'll book an appointment with the branch manager." Ended up sitting with the branch manager, and the conversation turned around to almost him going, "So how does it happen? Like, I want to know. Like, can I?" And it's like, "Hang on a minute. We're talking about getting a mortgage here, aren't we? Or are we just talking about what you're going to go in and try and do afterwards?" But it was all quite funny because at the time it's like my bank statements are here. You can clearly see like more than 15k a month going in from trading, and you're like, I can't lend you anything. So I was like, I need some taxable income at some point, or it's going to trip me up, even if it's a low amount. So, and at that point, I'd already been doing the site and the blogging and stuff. So that's kind of how the story of how that evolved. It wasn't, I didn't sit there and go entrepreneurial. And, in hindsight, there was way better things I could have done with my time, but that's what I did.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot around when you started either, really, was there? There was probably like maybe one or two websites which were discussing it, but the quality wasn't that great. I remember I've been trading. I think I came across you yourself on Geeks Toy. I think I remember reading the forums there, and then after that, I remember your website, and I just remember there not being that much really. So,
Well, that's
yeah,
back.
it was.
I mean,
I suppose it was timing was really good as well.
it was a different stage of the internet too, right? Like,
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Facebook was just getting going. Like,
yeah,
there wasn't really Twitter, or Twitter might have started, but I don't think I even had an account. And like, people were doing like blogger networks and stuff like that. There was, Peter Webb was doing like day seminars for 700 quid or something. But aside from that, there wasn't really anything. No. So there was just a few people. There's no guy called like Caan and stuff like. They were just venting on the blogs now, and that's where it come from. Yeah.
Yeah. So alongside your website, you've done a very good job on social media and of growing your accounts. And obviously that comes with positives, in that you can kind of get traffic from that and raise your profile, but it also comes with a lot of negatives. And you've kind of touched on that with Football Index, but you've also had kind of like scammers creating accounts in your name and pretending to be you and stuff like that. So how do you deal with that side of things?
There's been loads of that. With the impersonation stuff, it's tricky. I know like Instagram in particular are terrible. I know there's a whole load of accounts that appear to be me, but they're not. They won't do nothing about it. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just the internet, right? It's par for the course. You see it everywhere.
Yeah. Are you kind of immune to it now? Did it like used to bother you initially, or is it like does it,
like right back, it probably bothered me a little bit, but I don't think it's ever bothered me as much as it has other people that I've seen. Had people contact me. Oh, have you seen what they've said? They've said this about you because they said this about me too. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, so it's just the internet. Unfortunately, as it is, it doesn't bother me too much. I think if and sometimes people are having a bad day as well. They, people say
true,
things. We've all had various things. Like I've even made one comment once online that I probably shouldn't have.
Of course. Yeah.
But and nobody knows. But I'd just come out of a court hearing to do with family stuff, like, and it was just like, and it was just like a fourth moment. But these things happen every now and then, and they're not great, obviously. But there's not what you can do. It's the internet and it's life, and it happens. I think also with the stuff that the sector we're focused on, obviously trading, gambling, stuff like that, like the demographic it attracts, and maybe if you extend that to match betting as well, I think it comes clearer if you've looked at some of them forums and stuff. It's like these are generally people lower incomes, maybe a little bit more time on their hands. Not to be like negative of them anyway. Obviously, I was that person who started trading, but they want to get rich quick. They're kind of like, they feel like they're chasing the dream and that sort of stuff, and it can go sour quite quickly. Quite easily.
And sometimes it's desperation as well. Like I've looked at kind of got into match betting and stuff as well, because I was living in Thailand at the time with my wife. I was not making a lot of money as a teacher over there, and we had my son, and we were looking to move back. So it was just like, how can I make money? And when you're desperate, you do look at things, and sometimes you don't analyze them as well as you should do. And then if it doesn't work out, then you do become angry because
people have this tendency to copy stuff. People have this tendency to copy stuff. Like, it's happened so often to me, like so many times in so many different ways. The website, the courses, YouTube channel, the videos. Even I can see, like, really recently, there's a whole load copying. It's like, but the trouble is, you copy and it's never as good as the original because it's not original. And then they get frustrated. And then I think that's where a lot of that sort of stuff can come from. But hey, is what it is.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about YouTube, because you've done a very good job of growing your channel. So can you talk a little bit about the process of accomplishing this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know if there's anything specific you want, but like so for me, again, right, when I first started with all the stuff, the blog stuff was like a spare time thing. It was a fun thing. I wasn't looking at it as a business, and therefore I put my time and energy into it. And there was a lot of sort of burn, if you want to call it that, at the start, where there was literally no payback. So that is an advantage in terms of getting going. Which I'd assume many people, I wouldn't advise it anyway. There's better things you can do with your time. There's that, and then just consistency over a longer period, I think, and then just trying to improve and focus on quality. It's in a similar way to how I'd approach trading. It's like, what actually works here? Why does it work? And I mean, is there anything in particular you want to know? Or
I suppose just like the quality of your videos improved quite a lot. So when you started, it was obviously just you trading, and then you've kind of evolved your channel to kind of fit with what else was going on in the world of YouTube. So how did you kind of keep on top of that?
I mean, sort of taking inspiration from elsewhere obviously helps. you don't want to copy because it's like I say, it just doesn't really work. But I think again, just boiling it down to them core principles. So it's like, well, you know, the video needs to get clicked on. Okay, so maybe we need to have something interesting to talk about, right? Rather than just going, here's my day today, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Who cares? Like, maybe you talk about strategy or something like that. So it's just like I boil it down into those elements, and it's literally what I just do with everything now. And it's like, what was an interesting topic? How can we potentially make sure that they try and get clicked on it? And then once they're there, it's got to be interesting enough for them to stay and watch it, right? And then if all of those sort of boxes are ticked, YouTube will go, well, this is better than the rest. We'll put it in front of more people, and therefore you get more exposure and you grow. So, very broadly speaking, that's it. Without going into the finer details, and then just thinking about what does the audience actually want. They don't want to see a travel blog if they're there to see some better content.
Yeah, so it's about thinking about the viewer rather than yourself, isn't it? It's kind of
but that's everything though, right? That's business,
Yeah.
or when you're trading, it's like that's the market. It's like, what does everyone else want to do? All right, they want to bet on the favourite because the last favourite one and the favourite before that one, and loads of people have got in a treble, so the price is probably going to bonk on the third one. Like, it's human psychology again, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So you just kind of mentioned that you don't think YouTube's the best side hustle. Was I right in picking that up? Like,
I didn't say that somewhere, did I?
Oh, did you? I thought you said that it wasn't the best place to invest your time and kind of resources into.
Oh, so this was your previous video, the comment, right? Is that?
Oh, right, yeah.
So okay, so like YouTube's great. I think there's loads of opportunity there for sure. Is it great in what I've done? I don't think so. Like, I don't, and that's why we've spent less time on it. Like, I mean, I've obviously found ways to farm it out to other people doing various elements, the editing, stuff like that. And clearly, I'm not going to do that myself. But if somebody's looking at YouTube seriously, that's kind of the question, right? Then I would say pick something else.
So is that YouTube specifically, or is it just the area, like the kind of sports betting gambling area?
I mean, actually, maybe that's not fair to say. Like, it would be easier to pick various things if you want to get more views. For example, there's loads of other stuff out there, maybe like health or something like that. Gambling obviously works, but you have to have something to get money for it to make it worthwhile. And you're not
relying just on ad revenue.
You're not going to get it from AdSense. Like, you'll know yourself. Like, and as you get more views, you get less money per 1,000 views because it gets pushed to a broader audience that are less interested, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're certainly not going to rely on that. People will kind of look at that and go, "Oh, there's so many views, must be so much money." Well, yeah, take the editor's cost off, take all the other stuff, your own time. The fact that that rate is lowering, you're not going to get it from there. So you need something off platform to sell. And
that makes sense.
So a good example might be like BetAngel or Odds Monkey. Yeah. They've got 10,000 users a month, which they clearly have, and they're doing 30 quid a subscription each month. That's a lot of money. And that is then worthwhile having a YouTube channel to do. Now, obviously, like, I've had the site and the courses and that, but it's dwindling. It's super niche. It doesn't produce a lot of money. It's not.
Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't do that one. But if you've got like a new software that's of use or something like that, or your odds checker, then it could certainly be worthwhile. But also accept in this niche, in this sector, you're just not going to get a lot of exposure. It's never going to be huge videos, excluding the odd one which is maybe controversial or something. But then that's not targeting necessarily the right people. So and then also you've got to chuck on top of that, if you do something good, everyone's going to copy you. And then they're going to snipe, and then they're going to snipe at you and try and tear you down for it as well. And that's exactly what happens. And that's what's happened to me. So,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so we'll move on and talk a little bit about mindset and routine, because this is probably something that you've not really talked about. But obviously, as we've just kind of gone over, you've been successful in a few different areas, such as trading, building a business online, and YouTube. So obviously, you've got a good kind of mindset and routine. So do you have any kind of general advice, I suppose, for people that kind of want to kind of work outside the norm, I suppose, and be quite entrepreneurial and create a business for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, without leaning on the cliche guff that just gets recycled, like, because a lot of it's true. Trading's taught me a lot about all of those other things. As I say, that it carries over. I think the main things is like just being aware to be, being able to be aware of yourself, and then be critical of yourself, and like, you know, be honest with yourself is sort of underrated a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And you just need to sort of fail quickly and move on until you find what works, and then sort of rinse and repeat that. I know it's a bit paradoxical in a way, but like, okay, the best thing really is just to focus on the one thing that matters. Like, you see all these productivity videos and articles and whatever, and we've all read them, and it sort of applies to what you're saying here. Just do what's important. Don't do everything else, and then be ruthless with that. Probably the best bit of advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So is your routine? Are you quite regimented? Obviously, you're in the army. Did you think that had any effect? Like, are you quite structured in how you have your day?
The army's definitely changed who I am as a person. I think it does to
Yeah.
everybody who goes in the army. But I would also say no. My routine's quite blasé. I do a lot less now. I get up when I want to get up. I make sure that the important things are in there, like going to the gym and stuff like that. But I think really it's just, I also have accepted that everyone's a bit different, and it's kind of variable for people, I think. But I know that I'll get 4 or 5 hours of good stuff done each day for sure. So it's like, what is that good stuff? That has to come first. That has to be prioritized over everything else. And I need to go to the gym. I need to make sure I've had some decent sleep. I need to make sure that I've not been excessive on alcohol, like the evening before. I'm going to have a foggy head, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So all of the kind of the basic things really, but then just gathering them up and prioritizing them and focusing them early on. But generally, one thing I do sometimes is, quite a bit as well, is I use the gym halfway through the day or some exercise, because I find that it refreshes me and I can go again for a little bit longer afterwards. But it's not like there's any magical hack really, I don't think, other than do what matters and bin everything else. I think it's really easy to just build out a list and loads of things that you've got to do. And then you look at that list and you be self-critical and you go, hang on, 8 of them 10 things I don't need to do. It might upset some people, but I can I'll do the 2 that matter.
Yeah. What about with your trading? Do you like take breaks like every hour or anything like that? Is there anything you do to kind of break up the monotony of trading for like a solid 4 or 5 hours, or is that not something you do anymore? Do you just trade for like 2 or 3 hours?
Like, I'm sure there's probably not that many people about anymore that remember it, but like, if you see the really old blogs, like, I've tried everything in this regard, and it's like, okay, so I boil it back to what matters with the trading. It's like, I know that there's various races that I target that will be easier. Some of the, like the maidens, for example, and stuff, like, I prefer them if you want a longer swing. So I'll peruse over the card. When are they? They're usually at this point and this point. So maybe I'll target that area. Might take a break in between. I don't have I think a lot of the time people look for an arbitrary, trade 3 races and take one off. It doesn't work like that. Does that answer?
So you go more by how you're feeling. So if you're able to trade more, you'll trade more. But if you're feeling like a bit fatigued or foggy or whatever, would you take a break? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, as soon as you start feeling like that, I think you need to just stop, because you that's the moment where you undo the last 5 races of good work.
Just being self-aware. Yeah. All right, cool. Do you have any books or podcasts that you recommend for either trading or building businesses?
I don't do podcasts really. Books, the best books, I think, over time, particularly trading, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and what was it? The Mark Douglas guy, Trading the Zone.
Yeah, Trading the Zone.
They're definitely sort of the go-to books, particularly for trading, and even apply it to sports betting as well. But yeah, there's not really any podcasts that I listen to that I would. No, I don't think so. I think occasionally I might listen to an interview with sort of like a business leader or something on YouTube. They're usually useful, but that's really broad. I couldn't pin it on anyone in particular.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So what are your plans for the future? Kind of, how do you see the next 5 years, like, planning out for yourself?
Honestly, it's unknown, because it's always changing. I think I've slowed down a bit recently. Obviously, I had the heart stuff said at the beginning. I've slowed down as a result of that, and I actually found that it's not really been that negative to in terms of sort of finances and other areas of life. So I'll definitely continue with that. do a lot less Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
More time with the kids and family, the things that matter really. I think like effectively I'm sort of part-time at the moment. So I think just keep going with that and then booking in more holidays really. That's the one thing that I really sort of a sucker for, travel. I don't really splurge elsewhere much. But in terms of trading and stuff, I'll keep going, keep milking it until either Betfair have finally killed their exchange or, or they turn premium charge to 90% or something. But aside from that, I'm not really sure. Then obviously, business stuff's always interesting, always looking at different options, different things to do, but there's nothing hard and fast at this point.
Yeah, are you still planning to continue with your YouTube stuff and running your website? They still in your plans, really?
So the website stuff, I don't do everything myself. So the majority of that's, there's a little bit I do, but yeah, that will carry on. The YouTube, there'll probably be a few videos as well. I don't know that there's going to go. I don't think we're going to be doing 2 videos a week or anything like that.
Yeah,
but we'll do some uploads for sure. Where as and when it's useful, try a few things probably. But I don't see that as being like I'm getting focused on it and going for it because it's just not really worth it.
Yeah, you just got a good balance at the moment, I suppose, and you've kind of put the work in already, haven't you? And now you can kind of
this is the thing. Like, fortunately, and I'm grateful for it. Like I've got myself in a good position with a lot of stuff sorted and ticked off now, so I can effectively just cruise a little.
Right, good stuff. Well, thank you for doing this today, mate. I've appreciated your time, and I think there's been some valuable insights. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. I mean, you can only go into finer detail. So I think the one thing that if people are looking at trading or even with other stuff, YouTube, like you say, just the focus is the main thing, really. And do it aggressively once you find what works. But that's probably the best part of advice I can give.
Right, good stuff. Well, yeah, thank you very much for today, and I hope everyone's enjoyed this interview. And take care of yourself, mate. I'll see you later.
Brilliant, thanks a lot.